Ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to consider the OGD Cockpit, and we'll look at managing a data catalog with Semantic MediaWiki. To lead us through this session, it's a pleasure to welcome Bernhard Krabina, who's managing partner at KMA, that is Knowledge Management Associates. Bernhard, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much.
And welcome.
It's nice to be here again. I want to talk about an interesting use case, I think, for Semantic MediaWiki. Many organizations have already a history of publishing open data, but the tooling there is rather limited, I would say. I will skip the introduction. You can, those of you who are interested, can read this up. Basically, my main job is to provide an open source software solution stack built around Semantic MediaWiki for different purposes. So, and in my talk, I just want to give you the motivation. Why is an OGD cockpit a good idea? Then I want to go a little bit into the question of what is Semantic MediaWiki, and we're going to even dive deeper. How can you set up Semantic MediaWiki for building a data catalog using an European standards DCAT-AP? So the basic idea on this open data publishing process is you have to start somewhere, right? So you collect ideas for data that you're planning to publish from your organization. So you create a data catalog. How do you do that? Well, you look basically on the website. What do you have maybe in non-structured format, in PDF files? What IT systems do you have? You can look at other organizations that what do they publish. You can look at stakeholders, what would they like you to publish, and things like that. So you create some kind of data catalog, and this gets prioritized by the political and administrative leaders because they might have different views on what is important to publish, what should be published first. And this whole process, actually, you're basically on your own, because the data portal software then comes into place. Then you say, I have now a set of 10, 20, 30 data sets that I want to publish. You choose a license. You care about the format. You care about the metadata that you have to put in the portal, and then you publish it on the portal. And then this process starts all over again. And I have some publications here mentioned where I also go a little bit deeper into the question of the criteria, how you can evaluate, how to decide what you can publish. And then you publish it, for example, here on the Austrian data portal, data.gvat, and the metadata gets then transferred to data Europe, EU. Okay. So, but for the data portal software that are for this publishing process, what do you do before that? Do you write emails to the departments? Do you use some Excel sheet? You can do that. Do you have some database solution where you would collect the data sets, information about the data sets before they are published? Do you use some kind of web CMS? This data portal software, and on the right here you can find some. The most prominent one is CKAN, I think, but there are others. They usually are not designed for managing this internal process before you publish. And there is a new, I think, tool set coming along that's more in this data governance area. They might be an overkill. So these data governance tools are very often very big tools that might be an overkill for this solution. So that's the basic idea. Why not use Semantic MediaWiki? It is an open source solution. You can host it on the web or in your own internal systems. And this OGD Cockpit is a project website, sorry, only in German, that will describe how that could be done. And it is also used for other purposes. So basically what it looks like, you have some kind of, this is a data set, and you can, for example, here have your different criteria, how you can rate your data set internally, because you might be discussing, can we publish it or not? And this is a wiki, so you can add arbitrary documentation here. This also is facilitated by online forms. So here you have metadata that is internally relevant. Who is your internal data expert? What is the status of this data set? How is this internal scoring? In what IT systems is this data set stored? And you have also metadata that is already DCAT-AP compliant, because things like update frequency might be also internally relevant. And you can document this in your internal wiki. And of course, Semantic MediaWiki is very export friendly, so you can export the data. And basically what you could do is you could have a CKAN harvester harvesting the OGD cockpit for all the data sets that have the information they should be published. So yeah, this is the main idea. So what is Semantic MediaWiki? Well, it is an open source project. It is kind of a Swiss Army knife for data and semantics or linked data, actually, I must say. It is built on the MediaWiki ecosystem, so that's the wiki engine that is used by Wikipedia, but it brings this to another level by being able to structure data. So what you get MediaWiki, one of the best collaboration tools, I would say, around. With the version edits of every page, there's no backend. So a well-known wiki software. But with Semantic MediaWiki, you get the ability of adding structured data and managing structured data inside your MediaWiki installation. So you have an internal query language where you can, that is much simpler than Sparkle, where you can query your internal structures to be displayed. And you have other extensions around this ecosystem for the data entry, for visualizations of the content and things like that. So it's a whole open source ecosystem out there. Okay, so how do you do that? When you really want to use Semantic MediaWiki, well, there is no DCAT-AP in there yet, but how do you set it up? You basically build your knowledge platform by identifying, your object of your wiki page. So, for example, you would say the 3D model of the city could be a data set that you want to publish. So this 3D model of the city will be a wiki page. And on this wiki page in Semantic MediaWiki, you can define properties. For example, the data expert, organizational unit who is in charge of this data set, this scoring values I've mentioned, the update frequency, and other things that you want to manage in structured form. And you can also have, just text, whatever you want to describe in this data set. Those properties that you define in Semantic MediaWiki, they can have various data types. For example, that the data expert could be of just type text, so you have his name there. The organizational unit might be of type page, because you might want to have a page in the wiki for every organizational unit. So you have an overview, what data sets does this organizational unit provide, and things like that. It can be date, URL, or also external identifier linking to external resources. And then Semantic MediaWiki has the capability of reusing external vocabularies. For example, you can say, my property in the wiki called organizational unit is actually imported from schema department. So in the RDF representation, you would get schema department, but you still can use this name for your internal property. Yes, and then you would use forms to have this structured way of importing, and you would use templates to define how a page of a data set or an organizational unit would look like. And there is this internal query language that you can use. And if you want to use European standards that are not yet implemented in Semantic MediaWiki, it is very easy to do yourself. Schema.org comes along with Semantic MediaWiki, but here there's an example. So you would create a wiki page again in the MediaWiki namespace called SMW import DCAT-AP. And then instead of a local data type declaration, so you would, for example, have a page that is called property available, because that's your property you want to have. And instead of on this property page typing this property should be of type text, you can use this property is imported from DCAT-AP availability, and then it will look on this page here, where you have the definition that availability, so the term, the vocabulary item availability is of type text, and then you are reusing the DCAT-AP term here. And as DCAT-AP is referencing a lot of other vocabularies like OWL and ATMS and others, you have to set up these pages here, and you can share them. They're just text files, right? This is no hidden configuration somewhere. So you can look at the OGD Cockpit and look at MediaWiki SMW import ATMS, and you can reuse what I have created just for demonstration purposes. And you can, it's just a text file. Okay, so where to start? Well, obviously at semanticmediawiki.org. There is a yearly conference going on, usually in Europe in fall. There are also Docker images, and there are some projects that might be interesting. The project Nasta is providing a Docker image with a lot of extensions already integrated, including Semantic MediaWiki. So a project called OpenCSP that also tries to move Semantic MediaWiki even further. And of course, the OGD Cockpit. And just one thing for the German-speaking audience, also another project idea is data cockpit. So this is the idea of doing the same thing, not for managing a catalog of data sets, but for managing all the requirements from the GDPR, like the records of processing activities and things like that, can also be very well managed by Semantic MediaWiki. So that's also a project that I read. So yeah, this was it. Thank you. And I hope you have some questions for me.
Thank you very much, Bernhard. Thank you. Indeed, I have a first question here. How can you leverage the fact that MediaWiki is an open source project developed by volunteers? And how can it help to make it more suitable for data catalogs?
Yeah, well, basically, I mean, we have a complete ecosystem. So we are leveraging MediaWiki because it's freely available. It's actually not so much meant for third-party usage, but there is also the MediaWiki stakeholders group, who is a group of volunteers that is targeted towards the use of MediaWiki for other purposes than Wikipedia, so in organizations, in your company, for your private use. And there is also the community that is around building this Semantic MediaWiki and several extensions around this. So feel free to join this community. We try to make it as good as it can be. With many other open source projects, we lack maybe the marketing. So this is why I am also here, because I want to advocate for this open source software. And it's great software that can be used for so many purposes. And as linked open data and knowledge graphs are an important agenda item for the EU, I think this is also a very good tool set.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you triggered a lot of interest from our audience, so you will be getting quite a few visits to the sites that you promoted. Thanks very much for being with us this afternoon, Bernhard.